Hello everyone, welcome to the program Bachelor of Science 3rd year, subject Botany Core, Semester 5, Course Code BOC 105. Course title Classical Taxonomy and Phylogeny. Title of the unit Unit 3 Origin and Evolution of Angiosperms. Module name Co-evolution of Flowers and Insects. Myself Dr. Nisha Kewad, Assistant Professor from DPM Shri Malika Arjun and Shri Chetan Manju Desai College. Outline. In this session, we will be covering Introduction to Coevolution, Reasons for Coevolution, Evolution of Pollination, Flower-pollinator relationship, matching flowers to pollinators, and at the end, we will also study examples of coevolution. Learning outcomes. At the end of this session, student will be able to understand the co-evolutionary relationship between the flower and the insect pollinators. They will also be able to list various types of pollination, examples of pollinators, and relationship with the flowers. It will also help the students to explain the reason for coevolution. They can recall the evolution of pollination as well as flower-pollinator relationship along with examples. Now coming to the first slide, coevolution. What exactly is a coevolution? Coevolution describes the mutual change in two or more species, usually one following the other, which will ultimately affect their interaction. And one of the best examples of coevolution are flower plants and their pollinators. So, during the coevolution, there is an evolutionary pressure that is exerted by both the organisms which are involved. And those evolutionary pressure helps them to get the changes in the morphology, physiology, as well as the habits that will benefit both. Now, coming to the reasons of coevolution. When we say reason for coevolution, we also meant the driving force, the force which is responsible for carrying out the coevolution. One of the main reasons is that pollinator gets the reward, and that reward can be nectar for the pollinating the plant. Like one example is moth pollinated plants often have a spurs or a tubes of exact length of a certain moth's tongue. Another case is of a common snapdragon, wherein the bumblebee weight is good enough, wherein when it sits onto the flower, it opens a trip mechanism and the pollen gets exposed. Coming to the pollination, before we get into reasons of coevolution, which is pollination, we must understand what exactly are the types of pollination. There are two types of pollination, that is wind pollination and insect pollination. In a wind pollination, wind is involved to facilitate the pollination, and in order to do that, plants, what they do is they prepare a very high amount of pollen. So plant is basically expending a lot of energy in making the pollen. Whereas in insect pollination, it is a mutualistic relationship, and plant will expend less energy on pollen, rather it will use more of its energy in producing the showy flowers, nectar or odors, so that they can attract the insect. Coming to the evolution of pollination. Wind pollinated early angiosperm. Based on the data, we know that early angiosperms and gymnosperms were wind pollinated. This we can say because modern gymnosperms which are there today, they are seen to exudate droplets of the sap so that the pollen grains can be caught, and it is a chance phenomena. So there is a switching from a wind pollination to the insect pollination. In insects, or specifically beetles, plants found proteins or sugar mix which they used it as a food. So after a particular period of a time, insects became dependent on this food source and they started carrying the pollen simultaneously. So beetle pollination found to be more efficient than the wind pollination, and therefore there was a natural selection. As well as there were some modifications such as in a nectaries, color and also folded carpel which enclose the seed. Like evolution of nectar secreting structures was there so that they can attract or lure the more pollinators. At the same time, effort was put more on the making the white or a brightly colored conspicuous flowers so that again they can attract a large number of insects. Then also there was a modification of the carpel. Initially the carpel was a leaf shift, but as they have switched from the wind pollination to insect pollination, carpel became folded and they got enclosed so that it can be protected from being eaten by the pollinators. So over the time, plants with protected ovules, they got selected, the ones which got eaten by the pollinators. Now further modifications of flowers to attract the pollinators. As we all know, by the beginning of the Cenozoic era, there was a bees, wasps, butterflies and the moths have evolved, and at the same time there were a lot of angiosperms that were also evolving. So what happened is that both of them had put profound influence on one another's evolution. So it became evident that flowers that attracted the specific pollinators on a regular basis had an advantage over the flowers that attracted the promiscuous pollinators. So as a result of that, it also an advantage for the pollinator when they will have their private food, so that there is an elimination of a competition. Now, as a result, those modifications came in the form of a varied shapes, colors and odors of a flower, which allowed the sensory recognition by the specific pollinators and excluded the chances of unwanted and indiscriminate pollinators. Today, over 65% of angiosperms are insect pollinated, and 20% of the insect, at least at some stage of their life, they will require the flowers as a source of their food. Coming to the flower-pollinator relationship. First of all, for pollination to work and to be effective, there has to be two criteria to be met. First thing, pollinator must visit the blossom regularly. Second thing, plant must provide and advertise a reward. Coming to the first criteria, that is, pollinator must visit regularly. Which by this it meant that it should visit this particular blossom regularly. Visiting that blossom should be a part of their life activity, and they will be considered as their true pollinators. Whereas the pollinators which visit all the flowers or many flowers, okay, they cannot be called as a true pollinators. Second criteria is plant must provide and advertise a reward. So in that, plant must supply some kind of a reward, for example such as a food for a pollinator. Then also, if there is a food, there should be some kind of an attractant which will help the pollinator to understand, yes, there is a food. So there should be an advertisement, and that advertisement should be done by some kind of an attractant. That attractant can be direct attractant such as odor, color, shape or texture. Whereas indirect attractant can be providing a prey for a predators. Example is a hummingbird which preys on the insect of the flower which they are going to pollinate. Third is they should also have a means of putting a pollen into the pollinator. But in some cases, the reward which is being offered by the blossom is not always the food. They kind of take up the strategy of mimicking. Like a tropical orchid, their flowers look and also smells like a females of certain species of a wasp. So male wasp smells that orchid flower and thinks that it is a female, rub against it, tries to copulate, but it realizes it's a flower, so leaves that and repeats the same cycle with another flower of the similar appearance, and at the end it happens to transfer the pollen onto that flower. This is the picture of the tropical orchid. Now matching the flowers to the pollinators. First of all, we have a different categories of pollinators. When we talk about insect pollinators, we have bees, butterflies and moths. Bees usually cannot see red, so they can only see yellow, blue and UV. So thus whichever flowers gets pollinated by the bee, they are mostly yellow or blue in color, and they will also have a UV nectar guides to help them guide towards the reward. So they also usually have a delicate sweet scent and small narrow floral tube to fit the tongue length of that species of the bee. In this case, flowers are sturdy, irregularly shaped with specifically designed landing platform. Coming to the butterflies, they are diurnal, that means they are active during the day. They have a very good vision. They can see red, unlikely like a bees, but they have a very weak sense of a smell. They are the perching feeders, and therefore they have a brightly colored but odorless flower. In this case also, they have a very perfectly designed landing platform. They also walk around a flower, and each flower has a tube of the suitable length by which they take up the nectar. Coming to the moth, that is the third category of the pollinators. Moths are nocturnal. So what happens is that they have a very good sense of a smell, and they are hover feeders unlike the butterflies, which are the perch feeders. They have a white or a pale flowers which are visible at night, and their flowers have a long tube so that it can match to the tongue of the moth. One example is yucca moss and yucca plants. In this, yucca flower will get pollinated by the moths, by which moths actually lay their eggs, and when the caterpillars develop, they will feed on the seeds of the yucca. Second thing is acacia ants and acacia trees. Acacia ants lives in the thorns, and plants make a substances at the leaflet which is used by these ants as a food. So these acacia ants protects the acacia trees from the herbivory, as well as it do not allow any other plant to grow on them. Summary. In this session we understood what exactly is a coevolution and the reasons or the driving force for the coevolution of the flowers and the pollinators. We also realized that pollination is one of the major factor which was responsible for the coevolution of pollinators and flower. We studied the types of the pollination. Under flower pollinator relationship, we understood the two criteria that needs to be met in order to have a very efficient coevolution. Lastly, we have understood about the matching flowers to the pollinators with examples. These are the references. Thank you.